This is why I love cold therapy. It saved my life. Everything changes when we step into the cold.
Hi Belinda, it's great to have you here and welcome to the Stepping Into the Cold podcast. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into cold therapy.
So for me, I think I got into cold therapy, I feel like it chose me rather than I chose it. I had never done anything with cold, always been very afraid of the cold, and I just felt I needed to do something. I was struggling with physical injuries, long-term injuries, and emotionally. And in those moments when I feel like I've relapsed, I've said, right, let me do something. I've booked a retreat or an experience. And so I booked a Wim Hof winter expedition for the next week, having never done any cold in my life.
Nice.
And
So this is next week you're doing that?
No. I booked this. This was 5-6 years ago I did that. So, yeah.
Okay, so tell us a bit about that experience and sort of what you got from it, and sort of what changed for you.
So once I booked it, I realized I should do some cold therapy before I got there. And so I did one shower for 10 seconds with a stopwatch. Those were the longest 10 seconds ever. And it was really hard. But for some reason, I was like, I'm still going to do this trip. And so the winter expedition was with a Wim Hof instructor, not with Wim himself, but someone else who did their own winter expedition experience. And it was a week in the Czech Republic. It wasn't going to be in English, so they'd arranged a translator for me. So that in itself was stepping out of my comfort zone. Wow. And in that week running up to it, my mum, I think she thought I was going to die. She was like, you don't have to go. You know, you don't need to get on the plane. So I was getting quite a lot of pushback from people back home of what on earth are you doing? And you know you don't like the cold, but I can't explain it. But for some reason, I was like, I absolutely have to do this.
Yeah.
And when I landed in the Czech Republic, I felt like an absolute winner just for getting myself there. And I hadn't even done anything with the cold at that point. And then had a long journey to get to the retreat space. And the first morning, they didn't ease us into it at all. They were like, right, we're going to go in this frozen lake. And someone communicated in pidgin English to me, how long have you been practicing cold therapy? And I said, I haven't. And it looked quite alarmed to me.
Wow.
And I went into the water, and it was such a strong, really challenging experience, but an amazing experience. I feel like I went through, in that few minutes in my first experience, I feel I went through a 1,000 emotions, physical and emotional emotions. Experience. Yeah. So
I just want to first come back to your stopwatch, your 10 seconds. And do you
it's
think
quite a giant leap, isn't it?
It is a giant leap, but what I'm trying to highlight is so that people that are watching this is that sort of mindset, that sort of that switch that we go through. So was it that you held the stopwatch for the 10 seconds rather than set a stopwatch on your phone that was away from you? Or what was your process behind having something that you could physically see, what made you sort of do it, that you was like that persistent on the 10 seconds?
Yeah, I think my goal had actually been to do, I think, something like 2 minutes or something. So it had been a longer goal. But so I was obviously trying to time myself with this goal in mind. But it was a really intense experience. So 10 seconds was what I could manage on that first experience. And I think I felt like I had failed. But what I reassure people on now is it's a starting point.
Yes.
And it's a building blocks. And not everybody gets there in their first experience, and never to see that as a defeat. And I was kind of doing it on my own, so I didn't necessarily go through that process. But there was that internal drive for me to keep going.
Yeah. And do you know what time of year was it? So did we get an idea of what the temperature?
February in the Czech Republic. Valentine's Day I spent
Was this for your
in a river.
Was this, what about the showers? So just to get, what I'm trying to do is build that picture up to when you went to the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to understand is, did you activate the fight or flight response with those 10 seconds, as in, I want to get out, why am I doing this? You've already said that that you were very persistent and you wanted to hit that time. Your initial time was 2 minutes. So what I'm trying to build up to was, when you was doing this, I'm assuming that it was around, must have been the December, January time when you made the commitment to go.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're based in the UK?
Yes, yeah.
So around that time, the temperatures range between 5 and 8 degrees coming out of your shower.
Yes, yeah.
So 10 seconds, is some really good going if you've never done it before.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, stepping in, because there's a lot of work now which is around climatizing. So finding that level of cold that sort of activates you, working with that 10, 15 seconds at that temperature. And there's a thing of like increasing the time, but also slowly bringing down the temperature.
Yeah.
So now we know that what the sort of temperatures was. What was going on in your thought process when you was there trying to hit that 10 seconds? And is it something that you did daily?
I only did it once before I went on the retreat because I was put off.
Wow. Okay. All right. So,
yeah. And also it said start tailing down your cold exposure before you come here because you're having a really intense experience. But I obviously hadn't started gearing it up to start tailing it down.
Okay, so this will be really good for the audience then. So that first time that you did it, you didn't do it again until you went on the experience. And I'm so happy to hear that you still went on the experience and it didn't put you off. But what was it that went through your mindset at the time why you didn't go back? Just so we can understand, so that when people have tried it once and they don't go back in, hopefully they can learn something about that transformation, which we will get into, about your own story.
I think for me, I knew the benefits of it, even though at that point I actually hadn't studied the science behind it, but I fundamentally knew that it was good for me. So that's what kept me in it, was that this is my starting point and I'm going to commit to doing this. And yeah, that's really what kept me in it.
Okay. So now let's fast forward to the Czech Republic.
Yes.
And that experience to this, you're in the lake, someone said to you, what's the longest you've done or whatever, and you've got in. Let's talk me through that experience, that bit of your journey.
Yeah, I mean, there were 23 guys and 3 girls. So that was, we were slightly outweighed in the number. Actually, this was a nature experience. And so it's not typical of a Wim Hof journey, but actually most people went in without any clothes whatsoever, which was fine for me, but I can imagine for other people that would have been a giant leap.
Yeah.
And you really felt immersed in nature. But I would usually be that person stalling and hesitating, but for some reason on this experience, I wasn't. And I thought, if I stall for even a second and think about this, I'm probably not going to follow through with this. And I had seen a couple of guys who had decided they weren't going to do that first swim. And for me, that was quite something, because I always presumed that a guy would have more physical ability than me. And so if a guy wasn't going to go into that water, then should I go into that water? But when I went in the water, it was an immediate effect of that cold. I'd never been that cold. It was 0.5, so as cold as you can get. Wow. And my heart was racing. I couldn't catch my breath. It was really physically intense. And my mind was just going a million miles an hour, telling me pretty much every negative thought and an instinct to get the hell out of there. But my background is in medicine, and I know what it's like when a patient's having a panic attack, and I know what it's like to talk them round from that. So I sort of became my own medical person in my ear, telling myself, you can breathe. This is just a physical response. You have enough breath, and if you feel you don't have enough breath, you can get out, but you're not having a heart attack. And what you need to do is slow your breath down. And I just hooked into that medical voice inside me that then talked me through it, and was really glad that that voice showed up, because the other voice was saying, help, this is really intense, what the heck's going on here?
It's really good to hear you say that obviously you had that training that kicked in, and the way that we like to frame it is about your own personal coach, your guide that kicks in. So you know, we have both sides. One is telling you to get out, but over time, and it's great to see that you had that straight away. You know, that voice that came in that kept you calm, told you to breathe, and kept you in there, considering that like guys that you would have, that like you said, you were expecting all of them to go in, and they didn't go in. Did that do anything to you where it sort of maybe put you less at ease, maybe cause a bit more discomfort of going, well, aren't they going in? Should I go in? Should I not? Did that do anything for your psychology of getting into the water?
Yeah, definitely. It could have become very easy for me to become preoccupied and focus on why are these guys not choosing to come in at this experience. Yeah. But I think the challenge ahead of myself seemed so great that then I had to block that out and try and be in my own experience and what was essentially being demanded of myself. Yeah.
And so how long did you sort of manage to stay in, and what was that process of? So you said that you sort of like calmed yourself down, you had really positive self-talk and got yourself, I'm assuming, into a nice comfortable zone. So talk me through a bit more of those triggers, if you remember them, because about that experience, and maybe a sort of what you felt when you got out of the water. Was it a rush of energy, the sense of achievement, just that experience of coming out, and especially that cold is amazing, 0.5 degrees.
Yeah, I think at first there was so much noise in my head of conversation that it was running so fast that I couldn't even tell you what was going on. But obviously a lot of it was that fight or flight response, which is let's get you out of here, and you're over responding and overstimulated. And so that personal coach luckily showed up, and I was really working hard on that, and also the physical of trying to get my breath at that point was took an awful lot of focus to just get my breath and feel like I wasn't it's almost like a feeling of suffocation, because if you can't get your breath, it feels like a very real response. And then just to feel that switch of I can do this is an amazing switch when that comes. And to realize you're not being held in the water, you're not being pinned down, that you have the freedom to move, to walk out if you wanted to. And that release from that hard sort of nose position is incredibly freeing and gives you a lot of strength, I think, and gave me a lot of strength. And it was almost like I was so blinkered, because it was such an intense experience, that when I did manage to get my breath under control and my mind calmer, that I could actually kind of look around and see where I was and take it all in. And then I knew that for me, because you almost get like a little pocket of warm air, warm water around you, then I knew I had to move again to get myself out. So then that felt like a second challenge, was to get myself out of the water. And I thought, I know I'm never that person who, goes and dashes in something anyway. So I thought I have to really calmly walk out of here. And
was it in the
just that enormous sense of achievement was like, I felt like I'd climbed a mountain. I was like so proud of myself.
Your inner warrioress was out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Was it, so when you got in, was it sort of like cutouts in the lake and it was like a couple at a time, or was it an open lake and you was in a group.
So we all went in. They had a safety guy fully clothed, and then they had our leader who was sort of partially clothed, and he was guiding people in. And I think there was another spotter as well. So they were keeping a very good eye on people. But you went in at your own pace, so that you weren't sort of waiting for people and all going in together, which suited me well, because then I could just go into my own zone and calmly go in. And I think you sort of forgot about everyone else, because you were so caught up in your own experience, really. I did have a funny thing later on where I was quite slow to get redressed, because obviously if you've got cold, your hands aren't working so well, your coordination goes, and I kept tipping over and falling over. Okay. And on one of the days, and also you feel it quite high, so I'd be like giggling sometimes, and then I'd be falling over. And they did say, if you're that slow to get dressed, the safety guy will dress you. And he was this big Czech guy, and I was like, oh no, I don't want the safety guy to have to dress me.
What was you using, like a dry robe or like a poncho towel, like to get warm, or did you when you got out, did you get dressed straight away, or did you do some of Wim Hof's horse stance and warm up first?
Yeah, so their rule was that actually we didn't redress straight away, that we had to go into the horse stance, and then when we'd generated enough internal heat, then we would start to get dressed, which actually for me seemed counterintuitive. But given that it was taking me if you're taking 5 minutes to get dressed and not moving at all in that, you're just losing so much heat. So actually for me, it probably made much more sense to be doing that. Yeah.
So you mentioned that on the experience that you got to go in on your own time. What was the mental preparation, or what was your internal dialogue sort of going, okay, getting undressed, I'm going in. How did you psych yourself up, or what was your process to, like, from that point to actually getting that first toe into the water? And did you just jump in, or was it like a slow ease?
Yeah, I think for me, I was like, I could absolutely overthink anything in the universe. And I was like, this is not the time to overthink this, because you're really not going to go through with this. So my process from getting into the lake and going in was probably under a minute. I was like, and also because I'd never done it before, I thought, I don't want to hang around having taken my lovely warm coat off and get colder before I go in that lake. So I feel like I need to get in quite quickly, and try and just shut down that part of my brain that would analyze it too much.
Was that a decision then that you made before, that you wasn't going to overthink it and that you was just going to take action and go in?
I think I actually didn't have any plan.
Great.
Yeah, which is quite unusual for a planner, but I think the experience everything was so out of my comfort zone that I didn't have a time to plan for any of the experiences. I just had to go with the flow, and that for me is a big shift for myself, and was a really positive shift actually, because a lot of the things that I perhaps would talk myself out of, to be in that space, really, really freed me up from that.
So on that, a week excursion, was it?
Yes, yeah.
On that week excursion, what are the points that really stand out to you that have basically helped you to this day, that you go, that was a breakthrough, that was a transformation, that's something that you just, when you think about that experience, it just fills you with joy and empowerment? Please share if you had any of those experiences while you was there.
Yeah, I think that first experience in the water, I can literally close my eyes and be right back in that lake, and it hits me here, like someone's almost socked me there, punched me in my heart, but in a good way, and I will always carry that with me. I remember the first hike we did, and you hiked in swimwear and your hiking boots, and I did think about that one and was utterly terrified. And just the transition to go outside in, I think it was -2, or plus, it was between -2 and +2, so it's still pretty cold. not to feel that I was going to open that door and somehow combust was super scary. And but also once I got there and I got out on the hike, incredibly freeing. And to realize I was coping, I was mentally adapting to the cold. Just to have an experience you never thought possible and realize it is super impactful. Yeah.
Wow. And is it something you would is it something that you recommend to people that sort of ask you questions about, you know, why did you do that? Why do you do cold therapy? And is it something that you would recommend somebody going on one of these excursions and trying, or is there something else that you would say try first?
I would always say to people, you know, I can tell you some incredible extreme experiences that I've done with cold, but that experience is not for everyone. And I would hate to put anyone off by them thinking that that's the norm and the everyday. That's certainly not the norm and everyday of my practice. And there's a scale of what you can do with the cold. And I say to people, you know, if you do 10 seconds, starting with cold showers is a more realistic experience. And I would hate for someone to be put off thinking they've got to go and climb a mountain in swimwear. There's so many benefits to the cold, and really even just doing 10 seconds in the shower is an amazing starting point, and you will still start to feel those benefits. So Wim is Wim. We're not all Wim Hof climbing a mountain in our shorts, and we can still have those experiences at home. You can do it in your shower for free, and build your practice. And you'll surprise yourself. I always say to people, and people say, "No, you don't understand. I hate the cold." And I say, "No, you don't understand. I was you." Yeah. But when you feel those benefits, it just hooks you in, and you just want more.
So if you want to share a little bit about your journey, because like you went on this excursion and it's clearly transcribed into you to becoming a Wim Hof instructor. So what was that process, and what was it that made you want to become an instructor, and what was that switch in that light bulb moment for you?
So I can remember on the first retreat, one of the only two other women there said to me in the pidgin English, "Oh, maybe you'll want to be an instructor." And I looked at her like, never in a million years am I going to want to do that. I know what you have to go through to be an instructor, and I'm absolutely at the limit of my practice right now. There's nowhere else I can, you know, extend in terms of my cold exposure and all the other aspects of it. And then in lockdown, I went back to work in the NHS as a nurse, and it was pretty tough. I think everyone had a tough time in lockdown, but definitely being on the front line was super intense, and we were losing patients every day and really not winning. And I really dug deep into my own practice, and obviously we were working long hours, so I was swimming in the dock, and obviously not everyone was doing that. And then I was doing my breath work at work and my meditation, and I was just packing it in when I could. And so I think staff and colleagues started to see this going on, and people asked me about it, and I was just coming in with shed load more energy than lots of other people were at that time. And so as people asked me about it, I knew how it felt, but I couldn't really describe the science and theory behind it. And so I thought, maybe I have got something to offer. Maybe your average person can become an instructor and bring this to people. And that's when I signed up.
Well done, you. Well done, yeah. So what's so when you were like sort of in work on the front line, amongst it all, and people clearly seeing you, you know, whether it was you just doing a bit of your breath work or whatever, and whereas you were most probably able to manage your stress and the anxiety at that time much better than your colleagues, and it's like you were a magnet for them, and they were coming to you asking whatever questions they were asking. But I'm interested to know is how many people were like, "I've tried a cold shower," based on what you were saying to them?
Yeah, a lot of people said, "I'll try that in the summer."
Okay, yeah.
It became quite common. A lot of people said, you don't understand, I hate the cold. And obviously, as I said, so, you know, so do I naturally. So I think they felt that they were different and this wasn't possible for them. And then I think some people try it. I know a guy who said, no, I hate the cold, I'm never going to do that. He's 2 years and he into cold showers, and he hasn't taken a single hot shower in 2 years.
Nice.
Because it's just not his normal shower. His normal shower is he turns it all the way to cold and does his regular morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, people who say never, I'm never going to do it, surprise you. And I think once they make that step, that they're all in.
And so you talked about obviously being a nurse and how people coming to you sort of made you realize that you actually have got something to offer, and where your belief was lacking in yourself slightly, that actually you realize that actually I can do this. What's changed from when you sort of what's changed from before you started your cold therapy journey, and then really what's changed from when you first started to where you are now, and what lessons has it taught you personally, mentally, emotionally, and the way that you interact with people?
I think definitely stress resilience is a huge thing that I've got from it. Moments when I feel everything piling in and I'm finding it difficult to cope, and that negative self-talk comes in. Yeah. It's really nice to have that positive self-talk come in that quickly says, you have done some really difficult cold challenges, and which you never thought possible, and remembering how they felt before and during those, and coming out the other side successful. And I can literally feel myself go, okay, we did that, we can do this. And is this such a big thing? You know, if someone's shouting at your work and it's like, okay, you're not being attacked by a lion here. And just like moderating my response, my natural stress response to what's going on around me. That's a huge thing for me.
Nice. And so what is it you typically do in a week? So not what you teach people, we're going to get into that. Yeah. What do you do? What's your morning routine, or what type of cold exposure do you like to have typically in a week?
Yeah, I try to mix it up and vary it. And I also try not to be hard on myself. I don't want to be that person who's like, you have to do this. If I don't do it, I've failed. I think it's really easy for people to get into that. So I mix it up. I probably do 5 days of cold a week. I was the person who's never said they would get a chest freezer, but now I have a chest freezer. Nice. And I have it in a little studio in the garden, and I go out and sit in that, or I have a tank in the garden, which I can pump the water into that. And it is a different experience in nature. Days when I'm short of time, I'm just having a cold shower. But also the shower is a completely different experience. So sometimes if I haven't done a shower for a while, I step in and I'm surprised that is more challenging than I anticipated. And then what's interesting is my reflex reaction isn't, oh God, this is harder than I thought. My reaction now, which is the big flip in my mind, is, great, this is challenging. This is a new opportunity. What a bonus.
Yeah. I get, so I'm fortunate enough to live between the UK and Spain, and I actually welcome when I come back to the UK that the temperature is always a lot colder, and it was those warmer temperatures in Spain that inspired me to create the technology that cools the water for our showers.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I'm super excited about that, because for me historically, the winter is my yes time, and then as the temperatures start to go up, I'm thinking, how can I recreate this experience? And I live in London part of the time, and in Surrey I don't have a chest freezer in Surrey, so when I'm there I feel like I'm missing out on some of those intense experiences. The lakes where I swim at, the temperature's now 19 degrees, so I love it, and for my mental health it also has huge benefits, but I don't count it as my cold immersion at 19 degrees.
Yeah, so this it's funny that you say, because we've had people that are seasoned cold therapy advocates, and they'd never expect, so they would be more on the chest freezer where you submerge your whole body, and I find it easier to climatize when you're fully submerged to when you've got really cold shower water that's coming at you all over your body. And what I really enjoy is that sort of first sort of breath, or when it sort of captures you. What is it? What is it that what's your first activation, or what is it that you most enjoy when you're first getting in? Is it that breath, or is it that you just feel at home and at peace getting into the water now?
Yeah, it really varies for me. Sometimes I get in that water and I immediately feel at home, and it's my place, and I go very quickly into that almost meditative state. Other times I do have noise in my head, but then that switch, when it goes to that calm, quiet place in my brain where I've got it, is a beautiful moment. And sometimes, almost if it's a hard start and that moment comes, then it's I celebrate it more almost, because you feel that switch coming in, and then to get out and just feeling like I'm on rocket fuel is lovely. So even on a day when I'm like, am I on the fence? Do I feel like it? And then I get it, and I've never got out of a cold shower or cold bath or a lake and thought, oh, that was sort of okay, average experience. It's still like, yeah, that was great.
Nice. So you mentioned a minute ago that you spend part of your time in London and in Surrey. Where was it when you went back to nursing? Where was you based in London?
I was based in London, yeah.
So did you, obviously,
they did the Nightingale Hospital at the Excel, the big warehouse. Yeah. People's usual response is, were there any patients? Yes, there were patients. And then yeah. And now I work in COVID medicine.
Wow, thank you. It's what I'm trying to get to is, after some of those days, and I can only second guess how stressful and that they were. Did you ever find yourself coming home and activating a cold shower just to let everything go, or was you using the cold after a stressful day?
For me, it was the reverse. I was using the cold to get me through a hard day. So I was using it at the beginning of the day to set me up for it. I've never done cold exposure in the evenings, interestingly. I've always been a morning person. And for me, it was, I get up and it's part of my routine is cold first thing in the morning. And I feel like that carries me through for the whole day, regardless of that experience. And I think in the day when it's becoming stressful, I backtrack back to that morning experience and reset back to that. But I know people who it's their evening practice.
So I personally, it's always in the morning, but in the evening, if I've had a tough day, I will definitely step into a cold shower. And even if I have a really hot bath, I like getting into the cold shower and just a 30-second blast afterwards. And I seem to sleep a lot better as well. And I've had sleep problems for years after an injury. But so it's definitely worth maybe something. Try just that next.
I actually should do that sometime.
Yeah.
I think I feel so awake that I think, how am I going to sleep on that? But as you said, for a lot of people, initially you probably get that feeling of really energized, and then it probably helps you into a better quality sleep. So
because it activates the metabolism. Well, this that activates the metabolism. You get that natural warmth of the inside, and you. Well, I find that I sleep a lot better, and I used to take a lot of sleeping medication before I found cold showers. My process, I started off with Wim Hof through his programs, and I'm very grateful for everything I sort of learned along that way. Let's get into your Wim Hof practice. What's your vision? Where are you taking it? What are you doing? How can people find you? Tell us a little bit about that, and what's your goals? What's your dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I was so nervous to do the training that was my goal in itself. But I think with the onset of the BBC television programme, people's interest and enthusiasm has really really gone exponential, which is really exciting. So I hold workshops in London in my home studio, and then at Divers Cove, which is this beautiful cove in Surrey. And my first 3 workshops at Divers Cove, I think, sold out in 36 hours. So I was really, really surprised. I put them on and I thought, is anyone going to come? And then they sold out so quickly. I was like, wow, this is lovely to have this level of interest. So it's a really exciting times. I've got a Sunday Times event called Life Lessons in September, which is at Cold Rock Yard, where I'm speaking in front of 100 people. So definitely going to use my braveness badge to do that. Just really exciting to get the message out there. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so what is it that, so what I like to do is find out what you would say to somebody that's thinking of starting cold therapy, or we've touched on this slightly, or that they've tried it and they got that activation and they're like, I'm not going in again. And I like to sort of start bringing the podcast to a close by sort of that words of encouragement from everybody that's started their own journey for their own reason, and they've come all the way round, like yourself. You're now a Wim Hof instructor. You're enjoying and living the benefits yourself, and now you're teaching those benefits. So what would you say to somebody that is on the fence, or how can we get those people to step in, because we know how great it is?
I feel that the payback you get from it is so enormous. So people feel that they can't overcome this fear or the physical discomfort of it, but the payback you get is just huge, and you never regret it once you've gone in. And it's a process for people. Your first shower might be super challenging, but keep with it, because everybody I know who commits to it gets such enormous benefits. So it's just committing with it and going with it, and really you can grow so much from it. Fantastic.
So we finished it off. I'm going to hand it over to you so you can tell people how they can find you, how they can connect, and the floor will be yours. I just want to bring you to this last point. So we're going to start running a CRYOSHOWER challenge, which is we're going to come and travel, and we're going to come and visit people with the CRYOSHOWER unit, and we're going to let people experience what that cold shock is going to be like.
Oh,
I'd love to come and visit you.
Yeah.
Run that cold shock challenge with you.
Oh, I'd love to do that. What temperature does it change?
Yeah, so it drops the feeding temperature by about 6 to 7 degrees.
Well, so, I'm definitely interested in one.
The focus is making sure that we're under that 15 degrees, because there's been some really good science. I know that Wim did a lot of early science around there, but there's some extra research that is being done. I don't know if you listen to a guy called Daniel Huberman.
Yes, I love him.
Did you listen to the one recently about the 11 for health and longevity, the 11 minutes a week?
No, I didn't listen to that one. I must listen to that one.
Yes, so basically what came through this, so this isn't showers, because showers gives you that activates the sympathetic, parasympathetic in a different way into whole body exposure.
Yeah.
But what it was saying, that you only need 11 minutes a week below the 15 degrees or the 60 degrees Fahrenheit for health and longevity. So if your focus is about being more healthy and like sort of for the aging population, then all they need to do is 2 to 3 exposures, whether it's in the sea or in a lake, or so it's just for your clients. It's a good resource for us to know what we're trying to teach and educate people. But to say 11 minutes a week of your time below this temperature is going to have major improvements on your health and longevity.
And I think I'm on so many forums where people are struggling with the practicalities of where they live and how to you know, not everyone has a chest freezer or wants a chest freezer. So to bring the shower temperature down is massively exciting. So yeah, very, very doable for most.
I'm going to look forward to coming to do that video with you.
I'm counting on it.
Belinda, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. We like to finish off, as I just said, we've given you the floor for the closing words, but please make sure you let people know where they can find you. We will put the description in the comments below, but if you can just sort of, in case it's on a platform that doesn't give that there, okay. So that people know where they can connect with you.
If people want to find out more or want a little bit more support, I'm super keen to encourage people into the cold community. My website is www.wimwarriors.com. So that's WIM and then warriors as in warrior. Wimwarriors.com. And on Instagram, it's the same, Wimwarriors as well. And I put lots of snippets on Instagram and tips and advice as well. So that's always handy.
Do you run a Facebook group or page, or just Instagram?
Running a Facebook group, but I'm thinking of doing it and putting some bite-sized videos together on cold advice and breath advice as well. So that will also be under the same Wimwarriors. So it's WIM and then WARRIORS, Warriors.
So your main channels are Instagram and via your website? Yes,
yeah. Okay. And you can find me on the Wim Hof website as well, with the database of all Wim Hof instructors as well.
Perfect. Well, what we'll do is we'll list so people can see you on Wim Hof. We'll link your website and your Instagram page.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Belinda, thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely. Thank you so much.